Evening. Thank you for joining Sai Satcharita Parayan. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Sai Satcharita, the life and teachings of Shirdi Sai Baba. Chapter 22, Averting Accidental Deaths. My obeisance to Shri Ganesh, to Shri Saraswati and Shri Guru Maharaj, to the family deity, to Shri Sita Ramachandra. My most humble obeisance, I bow in reverence to the most venerable Guru, Shri Sai Nath. We'll continue from verse 183. It's a new story from where we stopped yesterday. Kaka Sahib Dikshit used to read Nath Bhagavad during the day, and similarly every night he used to read without fail Bhavartha Ramayan of Eknath Maharaj. He may forget to offer flowers to God, may even forget to bathe, may forget all other rules and disciplines, but it was impossible that he would ever forget the appointed time for reading. Both these books are by Eknath and contain the essence of spirituality. It was truly the mark of Samarth Sai's grace bestowed on Dikshit. In these unparalleled, absorbing books, there burns the ethereal threefold flame of self-knowledge, renunciation, and a code of righteous behavior forever. The fortunate one to whose lips comes the glass of this nectar-sweet spiritual instruction will have at once overcome the threefold afflictions, and moksha will come rolling at his feet. Dikshit was to get a listener for his reading, and by Sai's grace, I had this opportunity to listen to Bhagavat. It was a great boon to me. I started going day and night to listen to those sacred stories. By my good fortune, it was the beginning of a series and listening sessions which sanctified my ears. And so, on one such night, while these highly purifying tales were being read out, a strange, though minor incident took place. Listen, O listeners, to this tale. What can I do? While narrating one story, another suddenly comes to my mind in the middle of it, and knowing how worthy it is of being heard, how can I disregard it? An interesting story from the Ramayana was in progress. Although Hanuman had on his own recognized the true mark of Shri Ram that his mother had told him about, he wanted to put his Swami's power to test and ended up bringing upon himself a great calamity. A merest brush of the air from the feathers on Ram's arrow sent him spinning round and round in the sky until in extreme agony he began to gasp for breath. His father Vayu, wind, then came upon the scene. Taking his advice, Hanuman then surrendered to Shri Ram. While this part of the story was being narrated, just see what a strange thing happened. It's always a very beautiful way how knowledge comes, and here it is mentioned in initially Dikshit is mentioning how the grace has to be there, and when the grace is there, you will automatically listen or read that scripture. And also it is said that if you look at in one of the verses, it is mentioned that though you might be able to read, you are narrating it, there must be someone to listen to it as well. And my Guruji always says that knowledge is not just for myself. I cannot hold the knowledge. It has to be shared, imparted, and given to everybody in free. Because spiritual knowledge is for everybody's goodwill alone. There is always goodness in this. Anybody can listen to it, and even if they take that one word and imbibe and live by in this life, then they have attained their spiritual will. So knowledge is always, you have to share. You cannot hold the knowledge. You cannot say, oh, I'm not going to teach or I'm not going to talk about it. So that is not how it is meant, So always know that any spiritual knowledge, you will always have to share it. That's how it works. But please know that only with the divine grace can you narrate or can you share. And those who have to listen to it will listen to it. But that all begins with the grace of the divine Almighty Lord alone. So let us continue, and what happens, let's understand here. The listener's attention was fully engrossed in listening to the story when a scorpion, a disaster personified, appeared appeared on the scene. One knows not how. What interest he found in the story, one wonders. But without the least awareness on my part, he jumped in onto my shoulder, hiding there securely and savoring the sweetness of the tale. Even here, I experienced Baba's protection, for I had not noticed anything. But he who is attentive to the Harikatha will be protected by Hari himself. Casually, my eyes turned in that direction, only to find a terrible scorpion sitting happily on my uparna that rested on my right shoulder. Now, wriggling no movement, he sat quietly like an attentive listener who was carefully listening to the story from his own seat. Even if I had moved his tail ever so slightly with a natural instinct, he would have given me no peace, causing me great anxiety. Story of Rama was becoming more and more interesting. The narrator, the listeners were all completely absorbed in it, when everything would have been completely spoiled by such a dangerous, wicked creature. But such is the power of Ramkatha that dangers and calamities become powerless before it, forgetting their natural tendencies and become appeased. It was Rama's grace, that I thought of throwing away softly the dangerous creature and not to trust his capricious nature till the situation got out of hand. So, very carefully, I caught hold of the two sides of the uparna that I was wearing, rolling up the scorpion securely within and taking it to the garden, spread it out. By nature, a scorpion is terrible and may at times behave according to his natural instinct. Such was my fear, and yet very firm and resolute was Baba's command, so I dared not kill it. This is very sweet actually. How the divine can come in any form to listen to the sweet tales and the Leelas and the divine plays of the great being we are narrating. This happens many a time. I've observed, even in my own case, every single day, there will be a lizard somewhere sitting in this room or outside and listening to it very intently. And when there is a specific emphasis made for a particular verse, or there is something that is very relevant, and it's that knowledge is extremely important, it will make a sound to confirm that yes, that is very important and I'm listening here. That is how the divine beings work. And I've also observed another very beautiful way of how the divine communicate. I'll give you a very interesting experience of my own Guruji. So when he used to live in Goa, what happens is every morning, after he finishes his breakfast, he would sit near the window, and right from outside the window you could see a beautiful sort of like a mini forest sort of, and there's a huge land and covered with a lot of trees, and a lot of wild birds and beautiful birds would come there and they keep talking. But when my Guruji will sit there, and he understands the language of this beautiful birds and all other creatures, he can actually communicate with them. So I used to call this as conference of birds. There's a very beautiful scripture called conference of birds. So they come to listen to him, they come to talk to him, they have this very beautiful commune. They have this oneness, and they're saying some things, and my Guruji will listen and watch them and say, okay, this is a new bird and this is something. So like that, he even communicates. The same thing happened once when he was in Singapore, and we went to this bird park, and suddenly what happened was, we were passing by, and it was a very beautiful bird. I don't know the name of the bird, but it had a very beautiful color. It was in like a very dark navy blue, and had it had this horn of yellow and red, something like that. And it was making a very beautiful noise. So it's communicating with my Guruji. And my Guruji stood over there. I still have this beautiful picture. And if you're on my Guruji's Facebook, or you just can go check it out, it's there. The pictures have been there. So my Guruji like literally standing there, and he was making that noise and he was communicating. It like 15 solid minutes, they both exchanged some talk, and I don't know what that talk is, but definitely he understands what the bird is trying to say, and similarly the bird knows that he is the divine master, and they are talking. How sweet was that experience? So everybody comes in a different form to take that knowledge, and it could be one-on-one communication, or it could also be that when we are narrating, there's somebody else is all listening. But how they listen, why they listen, we don't know. But here it also, see, there are multiple explanations in this case, right? It's a scorpion, and of course if it stings, it's definitely going to the person is going to go through a nightmare because it's poisonous. And second thing is that where it is Baba's grace, the divine grace, where you don't have to fear anything. There can be no calamity that can happen to the devotees. That is what is saying, where Baba's grace can avert that calamity. So you don't have to fear anything. And the third important lesson over here is that, look, every creature has its basic instinct nature, and they cannot overcome. No matter what it is, right? So the scorpion's job is to sting. It's not that they will do it deliberately, but that is their nature to do. So the lesson is that no matter the scorpion stings, you don't leave your goodness. And I think we did this lesson yesterday, how the sage is always going to protect the scorpion. He's going to lift it and rescue it, but the scorpion is definitely going to sting him, which means you don't leave your goodness. No matter how the world or anybody behaves to you, you have to always be that goodness incarnate, that goodness personified. So always have the virtue. Today, my Guruji was teaching a very beautiful lesson in Das Bodh, and in that he was saying that, you know what, even if you have one vice, then you can't evolve on the path of spiritual. Can you imagine how much you have to qualify have all these qualifications and basic foundation built within yourself so well that then you can attain that different levels of spiritual spiritual wheel. Not just that wheel, right? You have to attain that highest form of love and devotion. So whatever you're aspiring to get to, that you have to imbibe all the virtues and live that. Even one vice will put you off the track of the path on where you'll go off the track, and you cannot get back on the path of spirituality. So because it's not going to give you that devotion or love, and then your human nature is going to come, and then you're always going to fall short of your progress. So you might take 2 steps forward, then you're going to come back 10 steps. That's what will happen. So don't cultivate anything that's bad. You should not leave your good nature for anyone in this world. That is the lesson. Here the listeners may naturally ask, is not a scorpion treacherous and therefore deserves to be killed? If he stings, is it going to bring pleasure? One wonders why it should not be killed. Snakes, scorpions and other venomous creatures will never be neglected by anyone. Why will Baba ask them to be left off? This doubt raised by the listeners is a very real one. I myself had the same doubt, but listen to Baba's words on one other such occasion in the past. It was a question far more difficult than this. Once in Shirdi, in Kaka's Wada, a terrible snake was discovered near the window on the upper story. He had entered the room from the hole below the window frame. His eyes were dazed by the light of the lamp as he sat coiled up there. Although he was dazed by the lamplight, he was bewildered by the human presence. The noise and confusion startled him, and for a moment he lay very still. He would move neither forward nor backward, but only move his head up and down. Then there started a great hustle and bustle, each one thinking of the very best way to kill him. Some picked up batons, some sticks, and hurried at once. The place where he sat was narrow and awkward, and their minds were exercised greatly. Had he made but one swift movement to glide down the wall, he would have landed himself straight into the role of my betting, and that would have been my greatest peril. Moreover, if the blows aimed at the most vital spot on his body were missed, he would have forever nursed a deep hatred and caused untold harm. As the lamps were brought closer to inspect his hiding place properly, the snake seized the opportunity to escape. The time had not yet come for him to die, and our luck was also great. Although the movement was fatal, Baba protected us. Swiftly he glided away the way he had entered, thereby making himself and us free from fear, to our mutual relief. Muktaram then got up, saying, "Poor creature, it is well that he escaped. If he had not slipped away from that hole, he would have lost his life." Muktaram's compassionate attitude made me feel very sad at heart. What is the use of compassion towards the wicked? How can the world go on like this? Absolutely. I think we all have this question. Let us see what Baba is going to answer. Muktaram comes here only once in a while, whereas we sit here morning and evening. My bedding was just near that window, and hence I did not like Muktaram's remarks. He put forth his argument at the beginning. I argued from the opposite point of view, replying to his argument. The debate raged. The final result remained inconclusive. One said the snake should be killed. It should not be delayed even by a movement. The other said, "Why hate an innocent creature?" One side rejected Muktaram's argument indignantly. One side advocated my views. The debate gathered momentum, but there was no end to it in sight. Muktaram then went down. I changed my place, plugged that hole, and spread out my bedding to sleep. Drowsiness crept over the eyes. People too went away to sleep. I began to yawn, and the discussion came to an end on its own. The night was over. We finished our morning ablutions. Baba also returned from the Lenti, and people gathered in the mosque. As usual, I came to the mosque at the usual time. Muktaram and others came too and took their own places. Somebody was crushing the tobacco in the palm of his hand. Somebody else was filling Baba's clay pipe. Some were pressing his hands and feet. In this way, they were serving Baba in some way or the other. Baba knew everybody's thoughts. He then asked in a low voice, "What was that controversy going on in the Vada last night?" I then told Baba that what happened in that same order, and asked whether one should kill or not kill the snake under these circumstances. Baba had only one thing to say: whether it is a snake or a scorpion, God dwells in all of them, so love them all. I'll tell you a very beautiful story here, what my Guruji teaches. This is according to Lord Shri Krishna from Bhagavad Gita. My Guruji says, when the question of whether the snake should be killed or not killed, and there was so much debate that happened, it means you've already used your mind. Someone says, "Oh no, we shouldn't kill because it's a living creature. What harm has it done?" And there's another person, if had it fallen on his bed, he's afraid that the snake would have sting him and he could have died, right? So everybody is right from their point of view. You know what is my Krishna Guruji teaches? The way to address anything is, how do you do how do you not perform any karma, right? You don't have to think. So what he says is that whatever that first thought that comes in your heart, you just act accordingly, and then you do that action and move on. Whether you the moment you think you have to hit, you're going to take a stick and hit on the snake, you're very naturally doing it. You're not questioning, you're not thinking, should I do it, should I not do it? Or if the thought was there that you just have to show the light so that the snake can go away, that you're just acting there, you're not thinking and questioning what needs to be done. And this debate further has only caused more doubts, which means the mind has come very actively whether that action was right or wrong, or what was the right action. So the right action is that which comes to you naturally at that moment in time. You don't have to think. Whatever the first thought your heart throws, you should just do that particular act and just move on. You should not even think about it, because that is what was written. That is what the will of the divine is. And when you do that, it becomes selfless action, which also means nishkam karma, where there is no karma happening. You're just doing it naturally. So if there is a scorpion and it is going to sting you, you have to protect yourself. Your natural instinct will be first to hit the scorpion. Okay, but if it is not doing a harm, say like in this case, on it was sitting in on his uparna, that cloth that he was that he had it on his shoulder. So he could just take that uparna and he could place it down on wherever he just placed it. So it went away. So this way it didn't sting. Okay, so it depends on that moment in time. So there is no way can anybody debate or question or have a doubt what is the right action. There is nothing like a right action. That action that comes to you naturally at that moment in time without a second thought, that is the right action. And you should do it without even questions in your mind. You will do it very naturally. And that natural, that action that you perform becomes selfless action. And that is the will of the Lord. This is what the truth is. So God is the control of this world, and everyone acts according to his command. Even if it be a snake or a scorpion, he will not act contrary to his command. Absolutely. And again, I'll give you a very beautiful story here. This is about Lord Bhishma. Okay, Lord Bhishma once going in a jungle. He was riding his chariot, the horse chariot, and he was going in the jungle. And one chameleon crossed his path. So Lord Bhishma Pitama wanted to save that scorpion. The chameleon. My apologies. I've been talking scorpion, so I just said scorpion. So save the chameleon, and what he did is he stopped his horse so that he shouldn't kill the chameleon. So what he did is he lifted that chameleon and placed it in a besides a bush. He wanted to save its life. But what happened is Bhishma Pitama didn't know what happened from his action. He did not see what happened. So then much later, when Bhishma Pitama was in the war of Mahabharat, when he was lying on the bed of arrows, on the deathbed, at that time, Bhishma Pitama questions Lord Shri Krishna, saying, I have not done any sin in my life. I have not committed any kind of karma. I've always been on the path of dharma. Then why do I have to suffer this death? And at that time, Lord Shri Krishna narrates this very beautiful story from his own past life. He then says, do you remember you had saved that chameleon which crossed your path when you were riding that horse chariot? And Lord Bhishma Pitama says, yes, I saved the life. So what sin or what bad did I do? But then Lord Krishna says, you did not do any bad according to you, but you don't know what bigger karma that you performed. I had already programmed for that chameleon to be that it should die, by under your horse's feet. So it was programmed to die under your horse. But what you did is, you instead of that, you picked that chameleon, you placed it in a bush. But that chameleon was placed on that plant which has a lot of thorns. It got placed on that, so it died a very miserable death. So it is a very painful death. So which means that Bhishma Pitama in some life have to die that miserable death. That is why he was lying down after the Mahabharat war on the bed of arrows. So it is like the thorns piercing the chameleon. Similarly, Bhishma Pitama had to die that terrible death. So then Lord Shri Krishna says, who has asked you to save that chameleon? You think you're greater than me? I have programmed everybody's death. Everybody has to go through that path. So everybody's destiny is programmed. So who do you think you are to save? And that is why we should never use our mind while we perform any action. It has to be done in a very selfless manner. And that which comes to you, the first thought, and you have to immediately act on it. Even that one next thought means your mind has already come. This is the truth. So everything is ordained at the command of the divine alone. It is his will that works in this entire universe. That is why we say even a blade of grass moves only by the will of the divine Lord Almighty. It is not by you or me that action is happening, but only with the will of the Lord Almighty. I hope you understand this lesson. Hence, have love and compassion for all creatures. Give up rashness and have patience and forbearance. God is the protector of all. In this way, how many of the innumerable stories of Sai Baba can be narrated? Hence, the listeners must take the essence from them all. The next chapter is even more interesting. as it will bring out the rare combination of devotion and staunch faith. When his great devotee Dikshit had to face a difficult situation as he got ready to kill a goat in deference to Baba's command. So I will continue with the next chapter, chapter 23, Leelas of the Guru and his devotees. I'm sure this is going to be amazing. So let's see what happens here. This Jivatma is in fact beyond the Trigunas, but being bewitched by Maya, he forgets his true divine nature of truth, consciousness, and bliss, and identifies himself with the body. Then, with the ego of his body, he begins to believe that I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, and is vexed by a series of calamities which he does not know how to escape. A loving devotion at the Guru's feet is the only way to overcome these obstacles. This most artful Sai, who is himself Sri Ranga, Sri Krishna, draws his devotees into this joyous sport. We may regard him as an avatar because he has all those characteristics. As for himself, he has always said, I am a slave in Allah's service. Although an avatar himself, he followed the conventional code of conduct completely and advocated a scrupulous adherence to the rules laid down by the Varnas and Ashramas. And this is so very true. Every sage, saint, or the great master who have manifested on this planet Earth, though they don't have anything to perform, they have nothing to do, yet they follow everything only to set an example so that you and me and everybody else in this universe follows that path of dharma, the varnas, the rules and regulations of life, of living a righteous life. Lord Shri Krishna has very clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that I don't have anything to achieve. I don't have to do anything. Yet I do all the duties. When I am manifested on this planet Earth, when I have taken a body, I do perform everything so that the world will follow him. They will follow his footsteps. He sets an example so that the world also adheres to it. This is the only reason why they do all of this. Otherwise, they don't have to do anything. There is nothing for them to achieve. There is nothing for them to, covet. There is nothing for them to go after. They are the divine Almighty themselves, Satchidanand, truth, knowledge, and bliss. What else is there beyond for them to attain? The Lord Almighty himself, who manifests and he becomes a part in his own sport. He never competed with anyone in any way, nor did he encourage others to do so. Such humility alone became one who saw the all-pervasive God in his whole creation. He never scorned anyone, nor did he consider anyone contemptible, for he saw in all creatures the presence of Narayan, the cloud of consciousness. He never claimed, I am God, but I am poor slave. I am his poor slave. A Yade Hakka. He constantly chanted, Allah Malik. Of any saint, the criteria to understand his spiritual authority are not his caste, his food habits, his conduct, for it is something that lies beyond all these considerations. It is by God's grace that these benevolent saints incarnate on this earth to uplift the dull-witted creatures. Only if there is accumulated merit from previous births will there arise a fondness to listen to the stories of the saints, which bring peace and happiness to the mind. Once a great student of yoga arrived at the mosque, bringing Chandorkar with him. He had studied the Yoga Shastra of the great sage Patanjali very thoroughly, but if his experiences were considered, they were very strange. And try as he may, he could not enter the state of samadhi even for a moment. If Sai Maharaj, this greatest of the yogis, will bestow grace on me, my doubts will be resolved and I will be able to enter into samadhi, most certainly. With this pure purpose in mind, he came for Sai's darshan, only to find him sitting eating bhakri, jowar bread, with an onion. When he saw Baba holding a piece of stale bread and a dry onion to his mouth, a serious doubt assailed his mind as to how such a person could ever remove his doubts. Even as his doubt arose in his mind, Sai Maharaj knew it with an intuitive knowledge and said, Nana, only they should eat an onion who can digest it. Actually, this is so beautiful. Lord Sri Krishna also has said in Bhagavad Gita that when you come with doubt, I mean, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita should not be imparted to those who doubt him. And when I say doubt me, is Lord is saying, who doubt me or question what I am saying, this knowledge should not be imparted to him. Similarly, whenever you go to a great master or a sage, who appear to be very ordinary, do not question them, because the moment such doubt comes in your mind, you will not be qualified for getting that spiritual instruction. So always have that faith and don't go by their appearance. They are going to appear very, very ordinary. They will appear absolutely ordinary and they look absolutely as an ordinary human being who look fragile. Sometimes they look demanding. Sometimes they look absolutely stupid. They will show themselves to be very ignorant, and they'll say, "Oh God, I don't know anything. I don't have money." They will show you different aspects of them, which will make your mind believe that they are some very, very lowly human beings on this planet Earth. Do not get deceived by those appearances. That is their Maya. They always put that appearance so that they can be incognito, so that you don't recognize them. They will only want to give the spiritual instruction or that knowledge or that grace only to those who are deserving. So they will always test your deservability. Please know this. It is not going to come to you so easily. God, Lord Sri Krishna himself has said, without his grace, no one on this planet Earth can ever know him. Nobody, no sages and saints can ever recognize him, because even the great sages like even Sai Baba or all the Kabirs of this world, they all need that grace for them to see the Lord. It is not so easy to get this benediction. Please know this. He who has the power to digest it should eat the onion without a fear in the world. Hearing this, the yogi felt quite abashed in his mind and surrendered to Baba with a pure heart. Later on, that student of yoga came and sat near Baba with an unblemished mind as Baba came to sit on his usual seat. Cautiously, he then asked his doubt, which was answered satisfactorily by Baba. Then he went back happily, having received Uddhi and blessings from Baba. There are many such stories which, when heard with faith, will remove the physical and mental obstacles like sorrow, temptations, etc. However small the pool of water and however offensive its stench, a pig will undoubtedly look upon it as a source of greatest pleasure. There is one similarity between the Jivatma and a parrot. They are both imprisoned, one in a body and the other in a cage. Absolutely. They are both imprisoned. Though he has lost his freedom, the parrot prefers his confinement. Like a well frog, not knowing the pleasure of freedom, the parrot too finds all his happiness in that cage. A Jivatma full of desires is like that. Yes, we think that we are bound in this body, right? That I am this body, I am this mind, and we don't understand what is the true meaning, what is our real nature, who is the self. We believe that I am this body, and we get so much entangled into that and running after our desires, we completely lose our real nature, which is the spiritual self. That is who we are. We forget that we are the divine being ourselves. This is the truth we need to understand, and we think we are always bound. Please know that for becoming free, you just have to get that grace of the Guru and walk the path of spirituality. And let me keep telling you again and again that spirituality is not for weak-hearted people. You need to be extremely strong and capable to evolve on the path of spirituality. Spirituality is not an easy thing. You need to really wear yourself out, and you have to do a lot of things. Sadhana is not done overnight. It's not done 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, nothing. It has to be done over years, and then you will get to some place in life, that which the Lord wills. Oh, how wonderful is my cage, and how enjoyable my little flutterings too, and from its golden rod. Even if I suspend myself from it head downwards, no fear of losing my foothold. But once outside the cage, I will lose all these pleasures. No more the pomegranate pips, no more the delicious chilies. Truly, it will be forfeiting all one's pleasures at one's own hands. And yet, As the opportune time comes, the parrot experiences that wonderful moment, which, with an affectionate pat on his back, opens his eyes with the collyrium of knowledge to the joy of freedom. Absolutely. What the pat on the back is the grace of the God. When the guru pats you on your back, and when he gives you instruction, when he taps you and gives you that knowledge, and then with that knowledge, you cut asunder the ignorance and then get illumined and become free. That is what is the meaning here. The pat awakens his inherent consciousness of freedom, and the bird escapes. His eyes are now fully opened, and flapping his wings joyfully, he flies freely in the sky. Who can then restrain him? Absolutely true. The whole wide world stands beckoning him. He can now feast to his heart's content in the orchards of pomegranates and guavas. The vast expanse of the sky is now open before him to fly about in his newfound freedom, which he enjoys to the utmost. Such is also the state of this Jivatma. When he enjoys God's grace and finds a Guru, he experiences not only the release from bondage, but also the great joy of freedom. And now, O faithful listeners, will you all listen for a moment with full attention to a fascinating tale of pure love? Oh my God, I'm quite excited. Let's see what it is all about. In the last chapter, you saw the marvel of how Baba sent Mirikar on his journey to Chitali, telling Shama to accompany him. Knowing the future, Sai gave a timely warning to Mirikar, alerting him about the danger from the long Baba or the snake. How he not only warned him, but also provided the means of overcoming a calamity. In fact, he forced them on him despite his refusal, and thus protected Mirikar from the danger. Quick and eager as Baba always was to ensure the welfare of his devotees, he averted the calamity about to befall Bala Sahib Mirikar, giving him thus a strange experience. But stranger still was the experience of Shama when he was suddenly bitten by a snake and was in grave danger to his life. Baba saved him. That too is yet another of Baba's Leelas. Let me narrate it first to the listeners. A snake had actually bitten Shama, but just see what remedy Baba used for it. It was about 7 o'clock when a snake suddenly bit the little finger of his hand, the poison causing intense burning in that part of the hand. The pain was so unbearable that life itself seemed to have reached its end. Madhav Rao's mind was clouded with worry and fear. His whole body turned red. Friends and relatives gathered around, urging him to come to the Vitoba temple, since his wife was in such grave danger. Since his life was in such grave danger. Nimankar, Madhurau's uncle, then came forward and said, "Take Udi first, then go." Madhurau rushed to the mosque, but lo, what did Baba do? Baba's ways are truly astonishing. For his eyes met Shama's, he began abusing and cursing and would not allow him to come up the steps. "Do not climb up, O Bhatrudya," a term of anger and contempt for a Brahmin. "If you dare climb up, just beware. Get out at once. Climb down and be gone," he roared. It was astonishing to see Baba so angry. Most unexpectedly, he began breathing fire and fury. Madhurao was stunned. He wondered why Baba was uttering such harsh words. On seeing all this, Madhurao panicked within. He could think of nothing and sat down, dazed and dejected. When Baba himself thus became angry, Madhurao's heart sank. He felt that when Baba had rejected him, all hope of a cure was lost. Actually, I can remember my own case in this. I'm just going to give you a very small narration of my own experience with this kind of an incident with my Guruji. I was in Singapore. There was a period when I suddenly had, I don't know what had happened, but I had gotten into this food allergy. I don't know what was causing the allergy. We don't even know whether it was an allergy or not. But I used to get severe vomiting and loose motions. And it was non-stop. I literally lost my weight. I became 45 kilos. I was already thin and my weight was 45 kgs. And one day I was in that, I had vomited for 3 hours and I was not able to eat anything. And every report, when I went for all the tests, every report said everything is normal. So we don't know what's going on with me. And I don't know how many doctors I had visited in Singapore, so many different tests. Whether it was a milk, some doctors said it could be allergy due to milk. So she thought I would be lactose intolerant. There was nothing like that because I grew up drinking milk, so I don't know what was the issue. So went to different doctors and all that. And one day when I was in such condition, I called my Guruji. So he was on a pilgrimage with some of his disciples, and he came back to the town pretty late in the night, and he saw my messages and missed calls. So he called me. It was around, I still remember, 3 a.m. in the morning for me. And then he started shouting at me and scolding me endlessly. I literally cried. I'm like, oh my God, my Guruji is also not with me now. What am I supposed to do? He's shouting at me and he's crying. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But this is exactly what happened. He's not scolding me. He's telling my mind that is causing these afflictions to me to get out and stop bothering me. I never understood this. Not until many years. I literally, that the next day and following a couple of weeks, I was upset that my Guruji I was in such a condition. At that time, he was, throwing volley of words against me, saying a lot of different things. And I'm like, I don't know, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I cried so loudly, literally like a child. It was so funny. But this is how the divine beings work. The great master works like this. Why they do what they do, you don't even know. But that is so sweet. This is what my Guruji did. And trust me, I was all fine. He was right. He literally made that affliction go away, leave my body. I don't know what that was, but even today, I have no idea, no freaking idea to what that was. But the sweetness of all that is that he was able to just cure me with such words of anger, and he didn't curse, but of course some words of anger that he threw at me. It was not at me, but at the affliction. It was amazing. And many a time he'll always say, all these diseases are created by your mind alone. Actually, there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfectly fine. He keeps saying this to all of us, but it is in our hand to believe that and overcome our mind. So there is no disease at all as such, but it is your mind which creates. But in this case, of course, yes, there was the snake bitten and the poison was, troubling Shama. Now Baba's way of removing that and warding it off was very beautiful. And who was not frightened? Seeing him provoked to such a terrible wrath, listening to the shower of abuses and curses, the whole situation appeared terrifying. This mosque is as my maternal home, and I, Sai's own child. This being so, why is the mother so exceedingly angry with her child today? To whom but the mother should the complaint be taken when a snake has bitten? And when she herself kicks him away, will not the child make a pitiful face? Absolutely was my condition. I'm like, if my Guruji is not there, who else will I go to? Who will else cure me? Who can I say this? This is exactly how I felt. And that's a sweet feeling. Now when I look back, I can only laugh at it and feel how, I can only feel the greatness of my master. As child to the mother, as so was mother of to Baba. When such had been the relationship day and night, why such a sorry state only today? When the child is kicked away by the mother herself, who will then protect him? At that moment, Madhavrao had given up all hope of survival. After a while, when Baba had calmed down, Madhavrao took up courage, went up to him and sat down. Baba then said, do not lose courage and have no worry. Whatsoever is in your mind, all will be well. Give up worrying. The fakir is compassionate and will protect you. Go home and sit quietly. Do not go out of the house. Be brave and do not worry. Keep trust in me. Then when he had hardly reached home, Baba sent Tatya Kote to inquire after him, and with a message, tell him not to sleep. He should keep walking about in the house itself. He may eat whatever he wants, but let him be careful only of this one thing. That night, Baba said also to Kaka Sahib Dikshit that he, Madhavrao, might feel drowsy that night, but should not be allowed to sleep, and thus, taking this precaution, his pain and suffering passed away. True, a little burning sensation still lingered due to the poison in that little finger. Later, even that disappeared. Oh, how the terrible moment was overcome. Such indeed is the compassion of the Sai, whose heart is stirred by kindness and love for this devotee. Do not climb up, oh Bhatrudya. was the verbal chastisement from Baba. But was it aimed at Madhav? Of course not. That is the truth. I'll narrate you one other very beautiful incident that I've experienced very recently, a year back. Um, One of my Guruji's disciples, mom, is suffering from some ailment. So we had visited her and we was meeting her. My Guruji was just, touching her forehead, and he was nurturing her, and he was ensuring that all her pains or whatever that is wrong within her body was being removed. And suddenly at a point in time, he said, now we need to leave this place and we have to get out now. Come, move on. He literally said it in a very loud tone. And I was like, what? No, yeah, we have a flight to catch, but why is he insisting? No, we need to get out now. We have to leave at this moment. And he said a very unique word. It's too hot. This heat has to get out. He used this very interesting word. And at that moment, having been with him for many years, I understand a little bit of how he works, and I understood it was connected to something of that particular disease that he had to get off. There's something that he was trying to get that out of that house, and the disciple's mom. So I said, yes, we will immediately leave. And I didn't question anything to him. We just packed everything, whatever the little food we had, we quickly went off. And then I went to the airport. I asked him, you said something like this. What was that? What does that mean? What did you do actually? He said there were certain things that was not right within, the lady's, my disciple's mom's body, that there were some things that had to be fixed. So he got that fixed, and there's something that he ward off. And that was so beautiful. So you don't understand how the gurus work. This is how they work. That grace is so beautiful. How beautifully they cure, and what they do is it's amazing. I'll tell you another incident connected to my own life. My dad, at a point 2 years back, suffered with a mild heart issue, and suddenly I got a call saying that he has to go through angiogram. He's been hospitalized in ICU. He has a heart issue. I didn't know what to do. I was with my Guruji. I was literally, I didn't cry, but I said, please take care. That's all I said to him. I don't know what to do. I was at that moment, I was in Singapore. And my Guruji says, don't worry, I am there. And I was having this chat with him that night, and one of my other Guruji's disciple was there with him. And suddenly, when I could see him when we were talking on the chat, I saw him sweating, and he held his heart tight. He couldn't move. He said, I'm unable to move. So he just was sitting on his bed, completely not able to move until the next morning. And I could see he's profusely sweating. That pain, he took everything on himself and cured my dad. And next morning, when the angiogram was done, the report came normal, that everything was fine. So this is the greatness of a master, how beautifully he protects all of his devotees and disciples, those who have taken refuge at the master's feet. He will never let anything befall them. He will avert all the calamities. He will take care of them so beautifully. This is the truth, but we don't understand. Sometimes by whatever happens, I'm sure yesterday, when one of the devotees saying, why is this happening to me? Why, God, you're doing this to me? God doesn't do to anybody, God is always very kind. He's benevolent. He's ever compassionate. It is our karma that we are suffering. But when we surrender to the will of the divine and the Guru, everything will go away. But we have to suffer. Our prarabdha karma is never going to go away. Please know that this body has come up with certain prarabdha karma, and you have to go through that. There is no way you can overcome that. The only way you can overcome is when you have the grace of your master, when you do exactly what your master is asking you to do. And that time he cushions. So the impact is not felt so much, and he will completely avert the destiny from happening. This is the power of the great divine being, the master, and we do not pay heed to this. And I'm telling you now, those who are listening to this satsang, please make a point to listen to your Guruji. Make a point to listen to what is being told. When you're told don't do something, please do not do. And if you, by your mind, self-conceit, deceit, go and do that, then you are going to face a huge consequence and something that is going to happen which cannot be averted. So always be very careful and mindful of your actions, what you do, and always be your good self. Goodness is all will lead you to overcome anything in this world. The power of goodness is tremendous. Where there is goodness, there is always a hurry. All the gods, the great masters, the sages and saints are always behind you. They are with you, they are ahead of you, they are behind you. They're watching you always, and you will be able to lead that righteous life. Nothing shall befall the devotees of the divine. Know this for sure. This is the conviction. This is my conviction. This is what the scriptures have been teaching through all the Leelas that has been mentioned here. No, indeed. The piercing words were not aimed at Madhavrao at all. It was a sharp command to the poison of the snake that had bitten. If you dare climb up, just beware, was the stern command from Sai's mouth, which at once arrested on the spot the onward flow of the poison. As if this was not enough, Sai's brief mantra, "Get out at once," climb down and be gone, made the poison come down immediately. Such is the power. They have the power to control the elements. They can control the afflictions, the threefold afflictions. They can destroy everything. That is the power that the gurus hold. Without using any other means like the conventional mantrik or panchakshari, this Sai, the espouser of his devotees' cause, averted their calamities in various ways. He did not chant any mantra, nor did he empower rice and water with charms, nor yet did he sprinkle any water. How then did the poison become ineffective? What is this not a miracle? Merely by the words from a saint's mouth, Madhavrao was relieved of his agonizing pain. Truly, there is no limit to Sai's grace. And now, my listeners, listen attentively to a detailed narration of the interesting, marvelous tale that was mentioned in the last chapter. The story is more wonderful than the one narrated in the last chapter. It will now be narrated to the listeners how Sai used to show his Leela. We are at the end of the hour and I will stop here. We will begin this new story tomorrow. I hope you had a very good time and I once again apologize for the technical glitch. Thank you for joining Sai Satcharita Parayan. You all have a very good evening. Om Shri Mahaganapate Namaha. Om Shri Gurudev Datta. Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Digambara Digambara Shripad Vallabha Digambara. Om Shri Krishna Guru Nathanataya Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Devi Durgaya Namaha. Om Shri Krishna Arpanam Namastu. Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru.